All right, now I spoke about all the problems, so now let's go on a more positive trend, all right? There is a solution, all right? And the solution is something that we really can get done. It's not, we can't get rid of the people who are getting older and they're retiring, that's dangerous, all right? We can't create workers, children can't go from 5 to 30 overnight, but we can fix the immigration system, all right? Because it's really not about immigrants, it's about a system, an economic system that has helped this country and will continue to help this country. In fact, I've been reading articles where in Australia they're going to change their system because they know they have to bring in more workers. They can't have a system where they are very picky about who they're going to bring in. All right, so this not-for-profit is called Caring Inc., all right, which is Competitive America, because we need to be competitive, Responsible Immigration Networking Group, all right? And the legislative proposal that we've prepared is called the Freedom Act, all right? Family reunification, one of the cornerstones, Economic Expansion, Documented Organized Management Act. All right. All right, we have a plan to protect immigrants, to protect the economy, to protect the elderly, all the things that we say were problems, we have a plan for that. The Freedom Act will do that. All right, so remember, family unification, that's the cornerstone of immigration because it's something that we've had for a long time because we want people to be together with their families here in the United States. It's the best worker is somebody who has a family. Remember, if they have their family here, they're growing, they're buying a house, they're not sending all their money back home, right? They're investing here in our country, all right? Economic expansion. I explained to you the reason why we have to be, if you're not expanding your economy, you're contracting it. It doesn't stay in the middle. So you have to work to grow your economy, and so you need the workers in order to do that. And we need to have, I agree, we need to have a system where people are documented. We don't want people undocumented in this country. We want people documented because it's good for our country and it's good for them. And I'm not saying about free, open borders. No, we want people to come with a system. All right, and that's very important. That's why we created the Freedom Act. All right, so in your packets, in your folders, there's information about what the Freedom Act is. But basically what happens is right now, if somebody gets petitioned by a family member, it could take anywhere between 3 years to about 20 years, depending if it's a brother or sister, or if it's a spouse. The system takes forever. It's really problematic. If I'm an employer and I need a worker, and I'm a mechanic, I have my shop, and I need to bring in a worker, it could take 6, 7 years. All right? How am I going to wait for that worker 6 or 7 years? It's crazy. So what ends up happening? I need the worker. Somebody's outside in Mexico needs the job. Guess what? He's coming to the border. So that's why we have to build a wall, because we don't have a system that works. If we had a system that works, we don't need to spend the money on the wall. Because if you're given a choice to pay a smuggler $15,000, $10,000, or to pay for the regular system to come in, the person would choose that. They don't want to put their life in danger. They don't want to have to be detained. They don't want to be detained and wait to be processed in detention. No, they would rather enter legally. All right? So what we need is take the system the way it is now. Okay? We have a petition. But instead of waiting all those years outside for your visa number to come up to date, what you did is we created with the Freedom Act something called temporary resident status, all right? So what the Freedom Act is, you have a petition in, this employer needs you, or your spouse wants you to come in, you're a resident, and instead of waiting years to come in, after your petition's in for a year, as soon as your petition's in, you go for fingerprinting somewhere at the consulate. You get your fingerprints done. Once your petition's pending a year, instead of waiting outside to get your LPR, lawful permanent resident status, what you do is you come in legally with temporary resident status. All right? So you're here quicker to help our country with jobs, to help pay for Social Security, Medicaid. Right over here we have something. Look, Social Security is terrible. Medicaid is even worse. We're running out of, that blue chart with that line going down there is how much shortage we have with Medicaid. So if we had the workers coming in and giving the money, right, doing the job, helping us, but also giving the money from their taxes, right, we would benefit. So who's against that? Having a legal system that works, that brings people together with their family quicker or puts them with a job quicker, that makes sense, right? They've been fingerprinted already. They do it right away. We don't have that now. We have people waiting outside, and what happens is, if you have a system like that, people say, well, that's not going to work for me. I need to do it right now, right? So I think a year is a reasonable amount of time. So what they do is they get fingerprinted, they get their temporary resident status, right? It's not a guest worker program. I'm concerned about a guest worker because what happens with guest worker? A guest worker program is, yeah, don't worry, we'll give it to you today and then we take it away from you tomorrow. We want those people to remain in this country buying our homes, buying our pizza, not sending money back home. But with the temporary resident status too is they have the option. They can become a temporary resident for 3 years and then switch over to lawful permanent residence and then later citizenship, or they can just be a temporary resident and continue that and then leave if they want at the end. So it satisfies both groups of people. Some people don't want those people to remain here, and that's up to them. They can leave if they want. They might not want to stay here, all right? But they have the option. Right now, if you come in as a tourist, a lot of people come in under the tourist visa, and they really want to stay. So we end up forcing those people to commit fraud. If they really should say, no, I might decide to remain in the United States. So they will turn on to this. If somebody petitions them, they might decide to leave later on, but at least they're here legally, paying taxes for work that they're doing, helping our economy grow, paying for all these public needs that we're going to be having with the baby boomers retiring. And it's based on the economy. Why is it based on the economy? What happens is if you're out of work under the temporary resident status for more than 6 months, you have to leave. In other words, if you're not contributing, all right, you can wait for your petition outside. But if you are contributing, you can wait in here and help our country. All right? So there's nothing wrong with that. All right? If you're committing certain crimes, then you have to leave. We don't want you here, you get deported. Remember I told you all the penalties are in place? All the penalties have been in place since 1997. And every day they're thinking of more penalties. So we don't have to worry about penalizing people who are doing the wrong thing. All right? It cuts down on fraud because people already are saying, there's a good chance I'm going to stay. Some employer needs me, my family needs me, so we want to stay under temporary resident status. And this is, you know where temporary resident status comes from? It comes from the last legalization. So they created a good system, but they let it die off. All right? I'm the architect for the Freedom Act. I'm the one who created it. I got help, input from other people, but I'm the one who created it because I know how immigration works. All right? And I know it's possible to have a system like that. People already do it for non-immigrant. It would get rid of a lot of the non-immigrant status of people coming in for work and people to come in under this status and switch over. So as long as you're doing the right thing, as long as your petition isn't denied for some reason, there might be something that you did wrong, as long as you're paying your taxes, right? If you're contributing, you have to be paying your taxes to help with for the Medicare, and you have to be helping for Social Security, all those things. So as long as you're doing that, you're a good person, and you're doing what you're supposed to, which most immigrants are. If you know anything about immigrants and immigration, you know most of the people are not the people that make the news. They're the ones that you don't see. They're the ones getting deported just because they didn't enter legally. And most people don't know that if you don't enter legally and you've been here more than a year and they send you out, just what? You can't come back for 10 years. That's the next thing we got to solve. But right now, all right, we got to worry about the people who are here, and we got to worry about making a system for the people we want to bring in that we need. We need workers, all right? So economic expansion, right? The economic expansion is that they'll be buying homes. They'll be spending money on travel, right? Now they can't go to visit their family. So they come in with the temporary resident status, they have money, and they want to go travel. They want to buy. When I go to the Galleria, most of the people I see shopping there are immigrants, all right? They spend. They're not retiring, they're spending the money. If they had a legal status, they could be spending the money without concern, right? They're going to be helping out. And then the documented organizes that they're going to have a card, just like they have a residency card, just like you have a driver's license, they're going to have a card. So we're going to know who these people are. They're not going to be entering through the border. They're going to be traveling inside the country, investing, they're going to help out our economy, having children, which we, if any of you heard the news, you know that the people who are of the years to have children are not having enough children to keep us going, to maintain our society here. So it's very important that we bring in people who maybe have 3 or 4 kids instead of 1, all right? And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Why? Because we need to think of our future. And like I say, if they're not making enough to support themselves or they're not working, then they can't remain. And I think that's fair because now they have no possibility to do that. Now the system is built to fail. And it's been that way since the late 70s. Most people don't realize it. We did an amnesty. Why? Oh, let's forgive these people. Instead of saying the system is broken, let's figure out a way to fix it. No. These people are here legally. They must want to be coming here illegally. Right? That's what people think. That's not true. If given the opportunity to enter legally, people would enter legally, unless there's somebody who shouldn't be. People who are selling things, who are selling things illegally, people who are trying to create problems, people who are, that we don't want in this country, then they're going to continue coming through the border. But people who want to help, who want to work, who want to bring their family here are going to use the right system given the opportunity. Okay. All right, and this is a breakdown. It's in your folders of each different system. Like if it's a brother and sister, it takes, let's say, 16 years. You might have to wait 3 years for that group, all right? We think about people with TPS, and DACA would be included in that TPS category. We have less non-immigrant status necessary, okay? And there's a whole chart here explaining what they need to do and how they transfer from petition to temporary residence to permanent residence to citizen. And basically, remember, temporary residence fills in that gap that's missing. There's a big gap missing in the system. That's what temporary residence does. Okay. So how can you help with the solution? All right. And this is, for me, is an important part just as much as giving you the information. All right. We need to help unite a base of leaders. All right. And that's what I was explaining before. We need to distribute. We need to help gather funds. All right. We're a not-for-profit, so that's very important. All right. In order to keep going, we need the help. Help comes in many ways. Volunteering, helping people contribute funds is helpful, getting the message out. All right, so, all right, and these are groups of people who can help out. Students for Freedom. Let's say if you're a student and you're in your school, you can get a group of people together and say, this is something that we need, just like they did with the doctor, and the doctor and trying to pass laws for doctor. Students are a good group of people who can get together and pass the information along, give conferences, pass the word along, and get involved. Healthcare workers, all right? Healthcare workers, it's very important for them to realize that there's a lot of people who are going to need their help, and there's not enough of them to take care of it. We can have a group, Doctors for Freedom, or Small Business Owners for Freedom, especially small business. I think one of the areas, a group of people who use immigrants for work a lot are small business people. We see it all the time. You're building a house, you're fixing your car, you go to a restaurant, all that work is being done by immigrants, okay? But they need to be here legally and they need to be helping out. Church groups and community groups, unions, immigrant groups. All right, and here, an example of some of the efforts that have been done in the past. All right, here with Joseph Crowley. Unfortunately, he would have been a great help. He helped us a lot in the past. He no longer is a congressman, but there's a great group of people there. Carolyn, it's not Maloney. I forgot, McCarthy, I think it is. all right, from Long Island, all right? She was very involved helping out immigrants, all right? And there's a group of pastors, a good friend of mine, Dr. Ali, a good group of people. Brother John George, he was supposed to be here today, but he got sick. So people from my past who are good people who want to help out. We do some demonstrations, all right? That's probably a while away because we really need to get people motivated in the community first. I mean, that's the one reason the focus isn't first on lobbying and speaking with Congress people right now. We need to have the groups involved, people saying this is something serious, but there's a solution and we can work together. If we get people from both sides of the aisle, people who are from one party or the other, remember, this is a nonpartisan proposal. This is to help citizens of the United States. That is very important. This is not, oh, we don't want this other side to do it, this party to do it, or that party. This is something that's going to help the elderly. It's going to help employers. It's going to help the United States continue to be productive. And hosting conferences, all right? So, there's no problem about having different conferences in different locations to pass the word. All right, and in fact, one thing I was thinking about the other day, they raised in about a month $20 million for the border wall. Can you believe that? $20 million. That would, for a drop in the bucket for that $5 billion. And those are the people who are really don't want the system to be fixed. They just say, no, we just want this to stop. They have no understanding of this is not about immigrants. It's about immigration, which is an economic system that helps this country. All right? So we really need help to get that done. We need people to volunteer. We need people to contribute. And we'll be able to make the changes. We know that there are people out there ready to do this. We need the help time-wise, funding-wise. There's plenty of things to do. And, if we're ready to help those who want us to help them. I think that's it. Thank you very much. Oh. All right, now if anybody has any questions, I'm ready to answer them. I know there's a lot of information, so. Sure.
Would you like to comment on the platform some of the candidates for president have, Robert, called Medicare for All?
Right. Well, I mean, the thing too is that since we're not for profit, we really don't try to discuss what the different candidates, because we depend on funding coming in, and we really can't take political opinions on that. It's mainly our goal is to bring about the information, inform the people, network, and then later on, the Caring Inc. will be doing lobbying. So I really can't discuss, all the political opinions of different individuals because that would be against our mandate.
Can you explain why there are two different not-for-profits? Because what is the Caring?
Right. All right, well, what happens is there's two different types of not-for-profits. One is you can't have even any proposal, legislative proposal, and that's the reason we created the Caring Inc. And the Responsible Americans Network Inc. is that one is a 501c3, so for tax purposes. And so we can talk in general about that we need immigration reform, and that's why the first part of the conference was that all the problems, all the reasons we need to reform immigration in general. But the other part is a specific proposal, and it goes closer to something that might be political, even though it's nonpartisan, and it's more advocacy, but there's a concern about that, and if somebody gives if somebody gives $50,000, they want to make sure that they can write it off, and so that's why we have to be very careful about that. Any more questions? Sure.
Do you know any story of somebody who was totally against immigration and changed their mind? Because I see people as very hardwired and not willing to listen to any new stuff, like how it's going to help people and do things.
Well, you know what it is? Most people make a decision based on that they don't have all the facts. Yeah. Right? That's unfortunately the truth. In other words, I always vote this way, or I always support this type of thing. But most people are dealing with a vacuum of facts. So they don't really, so until you explain to them, in fact, one of the things I want to do is give a conference to a group of people who may be like ready to retire. You know, that would be a great conference because they would say, wow, I want to make sure there's enough money there to support me for my retirement. Because people live until 90. I mean, it's, you know, they're living in worse shape, but they're living till 90. So that's the thing we have to concern ourselves with. So, I mean, I think that's why we're doing it from the bottom. If we did it with politicians, it would, right from the beginning, it would be very hard. What we have to do is convince communities, right? Because everybody knows somebody who, you know, and the best way to do it is telling a story. That's what politicians love. You know, I did a lot of lobbying. I went, when I was involved in the beginning, I went to 16 different states. We were like 165 groups involved. I was part of the National Coalition for Dignity and Amnesty of Undocumented Immigrants, and all my information is, you know, I was the one who prepared the proposal. We went to 2 times to the White House, in the Bush White House. You know, we did all that without any money. So, and in fact, I believe that if we had money, we would have had immigration reform today. And that's what I believe. And that would have saved all this money that we're spending on the border, all these people were put into deportation. If money would have been given to a group that actually, you don't know how many not-for-profits doing immigration are throughout the United States. When I started, back in the 2000, I was got involved, maybe in other states there may be 1 or 2 groups. In New York, we had more groups. But now, like, every state has like 10, 15, 20 groups involved with immigration reform. So now it's even more possible because there's more support. There are more groups involved in the community who can pass the word along. So what we did was unbelievable. Getting to the White House, doing our own proposal. You know, in my office, I win 90% of my cases, all right? And I'm proud of that. But I can only win it when I have the support of my clients. If a client pays me and doesn't bring me any proof and doesn't work with me, I can't win their case. You know, there's only one God, so they can do that. I can only win it with the support of the people who understand what I'm doing. And that's the same thing here. I need support. This is possible. I really believe it's possible. I believe that if reasonable people look at what's happening and say, you're right, we can fix this. There's no reason for this system to be broken. There is no reason. Look, you know how long it took to do healthcare reform? 60 years. It took 60 years. All right? It's unbelievable. Imagine if we didn't have that in place, what we would have now. All right? And I'm not supporting, you know, I'm not saying whether one way or the other on that bill, on that law. What I'm saying is important things take a while to get done. Immigration reform has already been pending 40 years. Right? Since 1979, we've had a broken system, and they worked to get something done. And in the early 80s, they did it, but they didn't do the full job. They did half the job, and that's why we're still talking about that today. All right? And I think if the more people who know about this, we're getting a website together, we're going to put the information out there, but we need help with people who are part of the community. If you're a student, if you're a pastor, if you're a doctor, if you're a professor, you know, if you're a community person, we need your help to get the word out and get people motivated to act, because it's going to help all of us, right? We're all going to want to retire before we're 80, right? We're all going to not want to have to pay $5 for a cup of coffee because of inflation, right? When we have less money to spend. We're all going to want to make sure that pilot is not working 3 shifts because there's not enough pilots, or the guy driving the big tractor trailer down the road is not working so many hours that he shouldn't be driving at all. Because every time that happens, all our lives are at risk. And it's really not that hard to make a change, all right? Maybe 1, 2, 3 hours a month, and you'll be surprised. Because you have 10 people doing 3 hours a month, we got 30 hours, you know, we got 30 hours, right? And that's what helps. It all starts from the base, you know? Oh, yes. Yes, Jeffrey.
In the past, there used to be an immigration program that allows those that have higher degrees
Right.
in science and technology
Right.
to just apply to the U.S. Embassy wherever they are, and they get admitted into the United States. But I don't know if that program is still available now.
I think right now it's in transition, but it's been available, but they're working on limiting those types of programs. But the other thing, and I hope that the conference explained it, is that we need carpenters, we need painters, we need mechanics. I'm less worried about the professional. Those people, if we needed tomorrow, they would make the number of visas. I'm worried about the healthcare workers we need. I'm worried about not having people enter illegally. And what happens, like I said, with this system, it's based on that they're working and paying their taxes and not causing problems. So we need the other workers. I'm not worried about those workers. I bet you we could pass a bill like that if we needed it like within 6 months. All right? If we needed more of those workers, they would make more visas available quickly. All right. Thank you. Well, any other questions? Well, thank you for your presence. I hope it's been informative. I hope I can get you to act. We have sign-ups here for, if you want to help get a petition going, we have one for the Freedom Act and one for immigration reform. We also have a list to sign up for getting involved in lobbying, if you want to help with lobbying for the Freedom Act. We have some other forms to fill out here. I hope we hopefully have enough information. And thank you for being here. Thank you.